Today I'm looking at a punk classic, Holiday in Cambodia by Dead Kennedys. And I've been meaning to look at this one for a while, it's been much requested. And if you don't mind, I'm going to indulge myself to start with by playing this track from start to finish. There's just so much good guitar stuff going on here. And then I'm going to take you through how to play it. So there we have it. This is punk music with great songwriting, great musicianship. And East Bay Ray, the Kennedys guitar player, has always struck me as one of the more interesting punk guitarists. And he talks about being influenced by Scotty Moore and rock and roll, and then surf music and Syd Barrett era Pink Floyd. And you can hear all of this stuff going on in his guitar playing. He's got a really interesting and distinctive style. Now, I should point out that there are two different recordings of this track. There's the original single recording, which is also found on the compilation album Give Me Convenience or Give Me Death. And then there's the album recording, which was on the album Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables. And they're both pretty similar, but there are some small differences. This lesson is mostly based on the single version, but for those who want to get nerdy about this stuff, I'm going to be pointing out some of the differences between the two recordings as we go along. So let's get to it. The introduction then, and on the single recording, it kicks off with these high notes. and you can hear the delay trails. So I'm just playing a high A, sliding off of that, and I've got a high C. I'm playing that on the B string. Again, sliding off. You can hear those delay repeats. I think East Bay Ray was using an echoplex, and it's set to loosely a quarter note rhythm. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of a rhythm there. And then we're into this octave idea, which kind of builds up before the band kicks in properly. So I've got the 12th fret on the A string, it's an A note, and I've got that same note an octave higher at the 14th fret on the G, just going between those two notes. So that's the single version. On the album version, we don't have any of this stuff. Instead, we've got some atmospherics and these kind of slidey special effects. And I'm not sure exactly how Ray would have achieved this. I tried to do a little bit of research, but couldn't really get to the bottom of it. But it could be he's sliding his pick along the strings. Maybe he's actually using a slide or a metal bar. Any of those kind of things will work. And I'm actually using a glass slide here. And all you need to do is just mess about and slide that up and down the strings. And got that echo effect going, and it all comes to life. And there could also be some behind the nut kind of things going on as well. So just that kind of strumming the strings down beyond the nut of the guitar, and again with the echo effect, that all starts to sound really cool. Next up, we've got this fantastic octave riff, which is really one of the signature parts of the song. So once again, we've got octaves played on the A and G strings. We're starting off at the 12th fret. I'm going to give you the frets that I'm playing with my first finger. And then we're sliding this shape around. So sliding down to the 3rd fret, and then 7 to 6. And then we've got 3rd fret down to the 2nd, and then 9 and 8. And the hardest thing here is just getting the feel and the rhythm, I think. The way I'm approaching it is I'm just trying to keep my strumming hand moving quite loosely. And I think if you listen to the recording, you should be able to get the overall feel of it. You don't need to be super precise with this. I think mostly I'm strumming these octaves. Occasionally I'm just picking out the notes separately. So I think particularly on that first octave shape. And then maybe here as well. Next, we've got this low riff, which I suppose is the verse riff, and this is quite straightforward. We've just got... So starting on this C note, a 3rd fret on the A string, and just moving down 1 fret at a time to the open A string. And then when the vocals come in, you're doing the same thing, but you're just adding a little bit of palm muting. One of the really cool things about this song is the way it's structured and the way it builds towards the chorus. And we've actually got 3 separate sections. You could call them pre-choruses or bridges, I think. And each of them are really, really nice. So the first one we hear is this. It's really just going between a couple of different chord shapes. I think the overall gist of it is we're going from a G to a D kind of a sound, and Ray is playing these shapes on the top 4 strings. So I think he's starting off with, let's give you the fret numbers here. We've got 9, 7, 7, 7. And then we're moving up to a kind of partial D bar chord. This is 12, 11, 10, 10. So going from a G to a D kind of sound. This shape here, I mean, it looks like a B minor, but remember you've got a G root note here played by the bass, so that gives you a kind of G major 7 sound. I think sometimes you can hear this G note in the shape, so You've then got 9, 7, 8, 7. He seems to, it's a little bit messy there. It doesn't really matter whether you play this shape or a bit of both of them. It will give you the same overall effect. You can see we're just picking out the notes individually there. Roughly the pattern is this. So in terms of string number, it's just 4, 3, 1, 2, 3. But again, it doesn't need to be super precise, and you can vary that as you feel it. Then we've got another little bridge section, and this one's quite simple. It's just single notes. And I'm playing all of these in the 10th position. We've just got a D, C, G, C, A. Playing all of those with a down up 8th note rhythm. That's what I'm hearing on the single version. Again, there's some slight variations on the album recording, and there I think he's playing some more of these chord shapes on the top 4 strings. So it's following the same notes that I played just now. So we've actually got a D, C, then a G, C, and A. And these are kind of partial bar chords. So it's the D chord, C, and then the G chord is like this kind of C form shape. It's fret 9, 7, 8, 7, and then C, moving that down 3 frets to A. And you can kind of pick out those notes a little bit as well if you want. So then we've got one more little pre-chorus section before we hit the actual chorus, and this is all played with triad shapes. So we've got a D minor triad shapes played on strings 2, 3, 4. So it's just fret 12, 10, 10. And then we're moving up to an E minor. It's the same shape, 2 frets higher. And then 15, 14, 13. This is an F major shape. And we're picking each of the notes in these shapes twice. So we've got, and moving up to E minor and up to F. And then we're going back to the E minor. Then we do finally hit the chorus, and this is just a question of bashing out the bar chords. So we've got an A, a C, and a D, and we're playing in this kind of rhythm. That's pretty straightforward. And then at the end of the chorus, we're going to this little F triad shape. So top 3 strings, 14, 13, 13, and playing it in this kind of rhythm. And once you switch the delay on, then it really sounds cool. So we've got the delay is filling in the gaps in that rhythm there. So the complete chorus sounds like this. And what I'm doing is I've got the delay switched off when I'm playing the bar chords, and then I kick it on when I get to that triad shape. So then everything repeats. We've got another verse, another pre-chorus, another chorus, and then we've got quite an extended instrumental section, and the arrangement's actually quite complex here. We've got all of these different bits happening, so do make sure you listen to the recording so that you know which bit goes where. And this is actually where the 2 recordings differ the most. So on the single version, we've got this tremolo picked part just played on the high E string. I'm at the 17th fret, 18, 19, back to 18. Then we've got the octave riff. And I think that repeats. Then we've got some more octaves, and it's just a little linking section which only happens once. So we've got the notes C, B, E, and F. And then we're into this bit. Which we repeat. And then we've got the pole pot section, which I'm just playing with power chords. This is pretty straightforward. It's just an A, C, D, and F, just all with a 6-string root. And I think the rhythm guitar continues to do that, and you can hear an overdubbed guitar coming in, doing all of these slidey special effects. So grab your implement of choice, whether it's a slide or a piece of metal or a lighter or a mic stand or a bottle, whatever it might be, and then just go crazy and make some of those wacky noises. And if you've got the delay turned up, it's going to sound really cool. So that's the single version. On the album recording, the instrumental section is slightly different, and it starts off with these triad shapes. And it's the same shape we had earlier. It's this F triad shape, just moving that down 1 fret at a time and just doing 1 hit on each of those, and you've got the delay trails filling in the gap. And we do that twice. Then we've got this nice melodic part, which I'm playing all on the G string. So the notes I've got E, F sharp, sliding down to A, E, F sharp, sliding down to B. We then repeat that, and then we've got this building section. Again, it's all on the G string, and just moving up chromatically from the E. F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. And just building on that A note. And then we're back to that octave riff, and the arrangement continues as per the single version. So let me put all of that together for you. You've got 2, 3, 4. And that's pretty much it. We've got another chorus, and then to end, we've just got a C to A power chord pole pot, and that's it. Let's talk East Bay Ray guitar sounds then. And I did a bit of research yesterday. I read a few interviews, and it seems for much of the Dead Kennedys' career, he was using a Strat as his main guitar, but it was a Strat that he'd modified, and he put a humbucker in the bridge position just to give it a bit more power and output. And then amp-wise, certainly for the early Dead Kennedys stuff, he was using a Fender Super Reverb. But again, he'd modified it to give it a bit more gain and overdrive. I think he wanted more of a Marshall sound from the Fender, so I think he modified it himself to get that kind of tone. So what I'm doing today is what I usually do. I'm trying to get reasonably close to his sound with the gear that I've got to hand. Of course, I can't emulate it exactly because I haven't got exactly his gear, but I do have a Strat. But this is just a standard Strat with single coil pickup. So inevitably, these single coils aren't going to quite sound the same as the humbuckers in Ray's Strat. But I think you can kind of make a Strat work for this kind of thing. Amp-wise, I'm using my Marshall. Now, this is a Marshall Studio Vintage Series amp. And the idea behind this amp is that you're able to get Plexi-style Marshall tones at a more reasonable kind of volume. But I have to say that it's still a really loud amp, and I actually had to help it out with a bit of overdrive from an overdrive pedal as well. So I'm using my J-Rocket Archer overdrive into the Marshall, which is just slightly overdriven, and a combination of those two two elements gives you a nice basic overdrive sound. And the other effect, of course, you're going to need is a delay pedal of some kind. And I think you could use just about any kind of delay pedal and get this type of sound. But I'm using my Catlin Bred Belle Epoque Deluxe, which is perfect for this kind of thing because the idea behind that pedal is it's a simulation of a vintage Echoplex. So I think it gets really close to that kind of tone, and the repeats are quite nice and dark, and they've got that kind of tape wobble to them, which is really nice. So I've got this pedal set in the classic Echoplex mode. I've got the depth control turned up quite high, so you get lots of that nice wobble. And then as far as the delay time goes, it's loosely a kind of quarter note delay. And I don't think it has to be exact here. One of the nice things about the recording is the drums and the delay aren't quite in time, and they're kind of fighting against each other a little bit. So I think that's actually nicer than having it completely tempo synced with the drums. So I've got the echo sustain control set for about 11 o'clock. So you've got 4 or 5 repeats, and you want the level of the delay to be reasonably high. You want it to be quite prominent in this track, I think. That's about it for this video. If you want to see more Dead Kennedys stuff from me, let me know, and I can try and look at another track a bit later this year. There is plenty of other punk stuff up on my website, or you can find it elsewhere on this channel. As usual, Music and Tab is going to be up on my Patreon page, and I've also put together, in a very meticulous and unpunk kind of way, this backing track. So if you want to play along to that, that's also going to be up on my Patreon page. Thanks very much for watching. I shall see you next time.